right after I got married to him, I suspected. There was some literature, some stories, whatever. I was pregnant with my first son. He was home every night with me. He was loving, he was wonderful. I felt very safe with him. And I do what every woman does. Not every woman, but I'm speaking for me. You just say, okay, everything's wonderful in my house. Why am I going to dig any further and look for problem? He's with me now. Everything is terrific. I don't know for sure. I don't want to know for sure. Don't ask, don't tell. I had heard him from his mother that there were some gay men, and then I had heard from other people that there were some gay men that were his friends, and I'd say, well, everybody has gay friends. That's fine. So I always knew underneath the surface he had had a relationship with someone gay in the past, and I thought, well, okay. He loves his children. He's a wonderful dad. He's a professional man. He's home every night. So I really kind of kept it just under the surface all those years. And then there was at one point when he was out all night at a medical convention, and I began to wonder, and then when he came back, it was in the 80s, and AIDS became a big deal. I'd been married to him 10 years at this point. I began to worry a little bit, but my problem with him wasn't so much about sex, it was that he drank a lot, and he was taking prescription drugs, and it was all to hide, to numb himself. And I knew that, and he was a wonderful person. Everybody loved him. So, you forgive me, you love me, you're like family, and I don't want to break up the family. And so I just kind of always looked the other way. Then it got a little more blatant. We kept moving. He would not stay in any practice more than 4 to 5 years. I think he was always afraid he'd be found out. After that, the sex got less and less. It would be maybe in the beginning once a month. By the time we were married 10 years, it might be 3 times a year. And then after AIDS became very prevalent, and you saw people like Rock Hudson dying, I got scared, and I thought, well, I'm not so sure. Then it became like once a year, and it was always protected. And that's what happened. And then in my 40s, women, we kind of bloomed sexually in our 40s. Our children are grown. We're not, when you're mommies, that's not what you think about. Most women do not. You think about raising your children, and sex is secondary. Then all of a sudden at 40, I just kind of began to feel like I am so missing something. I was so empty emotionally. I had never cheated on him. I had never looked at another man. And in my mid-40s, I met somebody else. My career changed, and I divorced him and remarried.
But when did you actually confront him with not the drinking, but with his being gay?
I never did.
Did he ever tell you?
He never did. And the way it came out was my son found out, because my son had been visiting him, and it came out then, and I had to describe to my son that I was always suspicious about his dad, but I was never really positive, and now we had some proof. And now it was time for his dad to lead an authentic life and come out and be with men, if that's what he wanted. And I never held it against him, because I felt he was a wonderful man. He wanted children, and this is very tough. Now, gay men adopt children. They didn't back then.
Did he feel liberated when you mentioned it?
I think he did. He never said, oh, by the way, I'm gay. It was just kind of like he talked about his new partner to me. And I said, I think that's wonderful. By then we were friends. So I really saw the pathos of this man who destroyed himself with booze and cigarettes and prescription drugs because he couldn't face who he was, and society wasn't letting him be an authentic person.
What do you recommend to people who either suspect or found themselves in a marriage like
I think you have to have the honest talk that I never did, because if you can, then more than likely you will both amicably agree to part and find your own lives. My husband I'm talking about recently died this past year. We were wonderful friends. My children loved his partner. We were all with him at the moment of his death, and it was the most incredible experience because the family stayed together and my children accepted it.
Do you think your sons were pleased that they didn't find out immediately? And
Yes, I do. I do. I waited till my younger son was 21 years old and through college before I told him the real reason. And he said, I kind of always suspected, Mom. And so he was fine with it. My older son was much more religious. He was a Mormon. But he absolutely accepted it. We accepted his partner because we loved him. You know what? What difference does it really make in the end? He's still a wonderful man. He was a wonderful professional man. And I said to my son, honey, we just couldn't lead authentic lives, but you saw the love there. You saw the love the minute he died. There was still love between us. That never changed. But we couldn't lead authentic married lives. And I'm so happy now, gays, they can get married, they can have children. Good for them. I'm an advocate of that because I can see it destroyed his life. I mean, he slowly killed himself. He just didn't put a gun to his head because he had kids. Did it the slow way. Have the conversation and accept it. For me, it was easier for me to accept that he went to another man than a woman. Honestly, I think women will really understand what I'm telling you when I tell you that, because I was married again and I was betrayed by a man who went to another woman. That was way harder to take than the first. There's just no competition in the first. It's kind of like it's genetic, it's in their brains. It's not like for me, I don't think it was ever a conscious choice. I'm happy that the closure, when he died, we let him go beautifully. He died beautifully. He didn't struggle at the end. I think that's all part of the way he lived his life and the way all that acceptance. He was a lucky man. Good for him. And may he rest in peace.